is day 1338, and there's no sign of life. Um, no sign of life of Richard. 1338 days, Fort Bliss soldier, distinguished honor graduate for his cycle in basic training and advanced individual training, and whistleblower, whistleblower for arms trafficking and child sex trafficking, child abuse, absolutely. And of course, things were so bad with the narcotics and the barracks not following SOPs. So that means failed leadership everywhere. Um, Fort Bliss has totally been breached. Our national security has been put at risk. And here we have open borders with many people coming through that are not vetted. And we have a breached military installation that has a lot of weapons. Matter of fact, the weapons are not secured. Um, Weapons are everywhere. A weapon was even found in the middle of a road in the intersection. The weapons have been tampered with. A long history of tampering with weapons with the gunsmiths who manipulate the weapons. There is absolutely um, questions about if the weapons and the brown tip bullets that we have been, intelligence has given us that were found at the scene at the August 3rd, 2019 Walmart mass shooting. If that came from Fort Bliss, and you would think, oh my gosh, no way. But because Fort Bliss for years has been breached, the security has been breached. Richard was under 24-hour watch for his whistleblowing, and he went missing because his security detail failed to show up that day. And that means another security breach. Um, Failed leadership everywhere you look. 44 four-star generals and admirals. The admirals were in charge, as I understand it, of the emergency intake center, where in 2 years, 85,000 children went missing, unaccounted for. That's under Ann Ogle's watch, CYS. That's under Thomas Kane, the director of emergency services, the chief of security of Fort Bliss. That was breached. The security was breached under him. He needs to be arrested, as even with all of these generals and senior NCOs, because the barracks absolutely flush with weapons. They were being audited. Absolutely, drugs were coming in. Absolutely, Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz told us to our face that they brought in girls. And I'm sure these girls were not there to make beds or cook dinner or, no, I'm absolutely, we were told to have parties. Those parties with the sex cult attitude going on there, absolute, no, I mean, no oversight of the sex cult attitude. And of course, then any kind of medical condition that comes from that is paid for by taxpayers. Any kind of, let's just say, hurt to our military ability to perform their duties. Okay, when our volunteer sons and daughters um, decide to serve in the military, they take an oath to defend the Constitution. And when their leadership puts them in barracks where they are given girls for parties, that involves every kind of illegal drug, that the barracks become a marketplace for illegal drugs, that SOP, standard operating procedures, are not being followed in the barracks. When the barracks are flush with weapons, illegal, not registered weapons, when uh, the class 6 is right next door, so that our soldiers are staying drunk. And this is not me saying this. This is, remember the soldier from Fort Bliss who went to Ukraine to fight, and then decided, no, that's not too good. Uh, I'm going to go to Russia. I'm going to go to Russia and leave my country, leave Ukraine and go to Russia and give Russia um, everything that he knows in his job at Fort Bliss to Russia. And he was interviewed on the news, and in that news, he says that for 2 years he stayed drunk on Fort Bliss as a Fort Bliss soldier. That the failure of leadership to discipline our soldiers into a moral, um, I would say, esprit de corps fighting force, is a failure. And we know that it is a failure because they have also failed with our weapons. So are failing with our weapons and our training. How do we know that they failed with our weapons? Because we had Iskander Day, right? Iskander Day, the Russian missile that comes on the drone that bombed the hell out of our Patriot missiles. Bombed the hell out. Our Patriot missiles had no chance. No chance, because it was Iskander Day. Okay? And this is from failed leadership, that our patriots are now archaic, that, we are not prepared. We are not prepared to defend the Constitution, that they have weakened our forces, our young, our young volunteers are between 17 and what, 25, 30 years old. Okay. 35 years old. Okay. Let's say they're between 17 and 35 years old. That is the height of their life, the height of their vim and vigor, right? Their energy level. Um, they can be tempted in so many ways. They think they're unstoppable. No, we have leadership, and we pay our leadership handsomely to discipline our volunteer sons and daughters into a moral, because without morality, without discipline, you cannot be a fighting force, period. Absolutely, period. You will be sent into war to die if you are not a moral, disciplined fighting force. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. It doesn't take a 4-star general to figure it out. So the breaches in security, what happened to Richard, is absolutely has to do with every last one of us, because Fort Bliss has a security problem. It has a breach in security. Our barracks has a security problem, and it's systemic. It's not just there at Fort Bliss. We are under attack from our very own generals. Our generals are serving foreign and domestic enemies. Absolutely. There's not a doubt in my mind, because if they were serving the Constitution, we would have a moral, disciplined fighting force. We wouldn't have this sex cult being like their top concern. We wouldn't have a failed sexual assault program. We wouldn't have a failed uh, suicide program. We would not have all of this failure. Every program right now that we have in the military is a failure, is a failure. And now to find out that it's Iskander Day, that the Iskander missile is going to be sought after because our Patriot missile now is archaic. And they were absolutely stealing from us on Fort Bliss. Absolutely. So you're going to see, because of all of the information, I just want to let you know that the people that come on, that are their reaction to us exposing evil, exposing criminal activity, is because they're up to no good. We know who these people are, and they're up to no good. And that's there because of the Interpol, because of the tampered image that matched the measurements of Dallas Hart's face, like it was an overlay of his face. Okay? It matched Dallas Hart's face. The forensics matched his measurements way more, by far, 3 times more than that it matched Richard. And it was supposed to be for the yellow Interpol notice of Richard. Why was Dallas Hart's measurements ranking so high in the forensics when we know that it wasn't a picture of Richard? It did not look like him. And why was his face on there? Richard's platoon leader's face on there. Okay. And who gave that to Interpol? Because that was a law enforcement agency that gave the tampered picture to Interpol. And for, I need to go look back how long we have been saying this is a tampered picture. It needs to come down. And thank God that there was a investigation, that Interpol took down that picture and replaced it with a correct picture of Richard. That is very, very good news. And the conclusion is that that was a tampered picture, and that if you're looking at overlays and the forensics of it, it matches Dallas Hart's measurements, his facial measurements. And so, there's a real question in what is going to be done with that information. So you're going to see more information coming out about that. That's very, very important. Then also, we are getting lots of intelligence about the El Paso medical chief, the chief medical examiner, Mario Rascon Ortiz. Okay? We're getting lots of intelligence coming to us about that. I think there's been concern about that before, but there is some fear. And the fear is absolutely notable because our agencies like Jesus Eddie Nieto Jr. is up to no good. And he is the FBI supervisory director for El Paso. If he's up to no good, and Marlon Soto, dirty Marlon Soto Hernandez, is up to no good, and then Eddie Nieto's wife, who is on Fort Bliss with intelligence, Cynthia Hernandez Nieto, Hernandez, Marlon Soto Hernandez. Um, the fear that people have, whistleblowers have, from speaking out is warranted, because is the DA, where we have a DA that is like not even legitimate. DA Bill Hicks, we have exposed him. He's not even legitimate. He did not fill out his anti-bribery paperwork before he swore an oath as the DA. That is under the Constitution. He has to do that, and he didn't do it. And then he signed it later on, and then there is real question, not by me, but in the news, this is what alerted us to this, is I believe Reyes Mata, I think it was Reyes Mata, at El Paso Times, I believe that, alerted us to the fact that there was a real question about timestamp tampering by our district attorney prosecutor, Bill Hicks. Now, that is absolutely crazy, but that has a real warrant to it also. Because even if he didn't tamper with the timestamp, because of open records showing that he signed it later, that means he didn't even follow the Constitution. That makes him illegitimate. Clearly he is, I can say it safely, that he is an illegitimate DA. And he, now with our open records, he plotted and planned, or whatever he did, conspired together, collaborated together, whatever you want to say. They did it with Justin Underwood, who is Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia's attorney, and Bob Moore and Bill Hicks, to unseat a DA that's duly elected. Over 230,000 people voted for her. And they unseat her by blaming this gag order thing, right? Where they are violating, Justin Underwood, who was made part of the Walmart case, was under that same gag order, and no one said anything. And the judge, oh gosh, what is his name? The judge that's over the Walmart case, he also broke his own gag order by addressing the community through the media. And all the while, this is a clown show, because the Walmart case is going nowhere and costing millions and millions and millions of dollars. So it's so clear that the fear is warranted, because the corruption is everywhere. And if I call out Justin Underwood, he's not going to be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that my client targeted your son's case. I'm so sorry. He's not going to do that. They get angry. We're talking about a soldier that's a whistleblower, that's missing, that's murdered, that they're withholding his remains. They chopped up his remains. They put it in different places, so they can't even, I don't even know if they have them to give them to us. And he's angry that I'm saying, look, your client targeted our case. She's up to no good, and her connections are up to no good, and she's connected to Danae Katzen, and Danae Katzen targeted our son's case too, and she's connected to Leilani Hart. Leilani Hart also targeted our son's case too, and not only our son's case, but the military who some way she's got them under her thumb, I guess, because she's getting mail at Dreams Cabaret. How many of those senior leaders have joined her at Dreams Cabaret? Because they have something. She has something on them because she's controlling Fort Bliss, and she was even bragging that she was controlling Fort Bliss because of her affair with Tavita Nusa, the CID agent. And of course, she has this connection with Nieto because Nieto, the FBI advisory agent, doesn't even arrest her for reporting falsely to law enforcement authorities, which she already has a criminal record for. She has a long criminal record. And she's targeting with Bob Moore. So Bob Moore is not going to come out and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you're exposing this," because he's up to no good. He's up to no good. So the fear of other individuals are absolutely warranted. And so I don't know what to say except for fear not, right? I don't know what to say because the risk is there. Every day we have a risk in our life. But the lies are just escalating so much that if we don't stand up with the truth, so many bad things are going to happen because the lies are escalating and they can never cover up all the lies. And, I talk about the stars and their courses fought against Sisera. And what that means is, and it's very important to understand this, that time itself is the stars and their courses. Time itself is this upcoming eclipse, is the solar cycle, is the lunar cycle. Don't forget, my son-in-law is South Korean. They have been on the lunar calendar, right? I know all this stuff about the lunar calendar now. And because time itself and truth itself, that cannot be tampered. See, that's why you go to the stars in their courses for an analogy for truth, because it cannot be tampered with. It's trustworthy. When you have the wandering stars like Venus and Mars transiting the sun, no one can tamper with that. And it happens in a beautiful pattern of time that is so dependable that you can mark your calendars exactly when it's going to happen, just like eclipses. They are so dependable. And you can mark your calendar the exact time that they will occur because time itself comes from them. And when you put it all together, talking about overlaying, and when you have your calendar all marked out for the transiting of Venus and Mercury across the sun, and you have your calendar then marked all out for every eclipse, and you have your calendar marked out for the stars and their courses, exactly when they come, 360 degrees, right? That's how the Egyptians in their hieroglyphs, they laid out their entire calendar with the 36 constellations, the 12 major constellations. When you do your calendar with that, and then you lay on top of that the solar cycle and then the lunar cycle, and you overlay all of those dates together, and you have these self-same dates that are just amazing. And you can overlay that with the 7-day week that has never been broken. 7-day week, going back in time and forward in time, has never been broken. You have something that is so true that cannot be tampered with. You and I'll tell you this too, and this seems to be a little bit of a diversion from Richard's case, but it's something that is so important for our well-being, for our mental well-being. And that is to know that when you overlay, if you ever have time to do it, which it takes time, when you overlay all of those astronomical lines of time, and you go back in history and you go forward in history, I will tell you this, there is a prime date, and that prime date when all things culminate in one self-same day is called the prime day, the day of creation. And it does it. And it is amazing. And what it shows you are the lies. And the lies are Darwin's theory of evolution. This whole evolution is shown to be the deception that it is. The total deception. And because of that, when the COVID thing came through, you know that things can be tampered with. Our medical system can be tampered with. Our DA's office can be tampered with. Our medical examiner position can be tampered with. Our generals can be tampered with. Our senior NCOs can be tampered with. Our weapons can be tampered with. Our economic system can be tampered with. But the stars in their courses cannot be. Nothing can stop this April 8th eclipse. Nobody can tamper with that. It's the truth. And you see, the truth will come out no matter how hard these individuals are that are involved in criminal activities. They are going to be exposed. And when you know this, you hesitate. You hesitate to be up to no good. Because you know it's going to be exposed. When you've overlaid all the astronomical lines of time, and you see the truth for yourself, and you do that maypole dance, right? It gives you a skip in your walk. And you know that you don't come from monkeys. You don't come from a soup. That our education system, our science department has been tampered with. Then when you get into a situation like with Richard, it's, that you're dealing with agencies and organizations and individuals that want to manipulate, that want to tamper, that have participated in criminal activities, which is the tampering, the manipulation, the deception. And you see, when you know that truth is going to come out, that you can't get away with it forever, that it's not dependable, that it's not steadfast, that it's not forever and ever, that it will falter, then you think twice about how you conduct yourself. And then you also, when you're facing evil, you also are patient, more patient. And I'm not saying that this has not been absolutely hell for us. Absolutely hell. And so sad, the emotions. To see people lie to your face and say, we're here to help you. And what they're really doing is trying to feed you Darwin, deception, lies. And now they're going to try to manipulate the narrative. They have from the very beginning. And beautiful Richard, young, young. When you're 19, 20, 21, it's so easy to stumble. It's so easy to be deceived. It's so easy to be directed, especially when you have to live in the barracks. And, he did really well. He did really well with his youth and all of the temptations and the direction. Think about what they did to him. It is, and so where am I getting from this? The response, just, it's so disappointing. The response, even from the commanding general of Fort Bliss, it's so abnormal that it speaks 1,000 words, right? Because with any other case, with any other missing soldier, they would have, a little announcement reminder. Maybe at a group event or a sporting event, they would say, take out we just want to remind you that we have a missing soldier. Their unwillingness means that they have something to hide. That's what it means to us, that there is more that's being hidden. And for us, with everything that we know, with Richard's case being tampered with even Interpol, can you believe it? Interpol was tampered with. His file was tampered with. Witnesses were tampered with. Our search and investigation was tampered with. The leads were tampered with. Rob's missing person statement in Chihuahua, Mexico, in Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico, at the Fiscalia was tampered with. Our case has been targeted by Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, by Leilani Hart, by many, many others, to include impersonation of us, the taking of our son's face, the going behind our backs with followers and misleading them. I remember one, they told her, she contacted me, thank God she contacted me, and she said, I was told by Corinne Adeline West that you're hiding your son. I'm like, what? No, I'm not. We're not hiding our son. Um, that is so criminal. And there is a reluctance by law enforcement. Look, the MPs were tampered with. The CID investigation was tampered with. The PI investigation was tampered with. The CAOs were tampered with. One of our CAOs committed suicide. Another engaged in retaliatory or misleading activities. I would call them PSYOP activities or TRADOC activities. Absolutely. The PAO was tampered with. Richard's unit was tampered with. The DES was tampered with. It goes on and on. The breach in security is so big, and the manipulation, the deception is so big, and the soldiers shake. They shake, and it's warranted because we're being attacked in a new modern way. I wouldn't even say it's a new modern way. I think it's an age-old way. Why do I have Theodora behind me in the picture? Let's see if I move this out of the way. And Justinian. If you haven't read their stories, how Byzantium started, the longest lasting empire that we know about. I mean, we hear about Tartaria and all of that, but Byzantium has this rich history. How did it become that? And how did it build what it did? Amazing. Because it was so tampered with. And Theodora was such a hero. Now, when you read about her, you're going to be so shocked. But God uses who he uses, who he chooses. It's not us. And, I'm just a mom, and he's used us to cheer for our son, to demand justice for our son, to search and investigate the crime committed against our son, which has exposed so much, I want to say corruption, but it's tampering, because they tamper with the HRC, the human resources. Who in their world would put Mario Rascon Ortiz, who's not even American citizen, and it has nothing to do with him being American citizen or not. It has to do with him being an American citizen because the Texas Constitution requires it for that position. That's what it has to do with. Legally. Why? It is a very, very sensitive position. That's why when you are chief medical examiner for El Paso County, you get almost $500,000 a year salary from taxpayers, because it's a very sensitive position. Because he has judicial powers. He can issue a subpoena. He can issue a warrant. How many people can issue a subpoena and a warrant? I wish I could, but I can't. But Mario Rascon Ortiz, as chief medical examiner for El Paso County, can. And he's not even an American citizen, which is required by the Texas Constitution, because he has judicial powers. And with those judicial powers, he has access to very sensitive information. and he has access to our deceased family members. He has access to the records of remains, of remains. And he also has, I mean, does he hand over the remains to who he wants? What is that all about? And he has to determine the cause of death. Now, he has to be an expert witness in courts of law. This is a very important. So, who was he competing with to get that position? And the El Paso County commissioners, how did they vet them? And more information is coming out that I'll share with you later. But it's very important because he handled Richard's remains. He handled the remains of all of the Walmart mass shooting victims. This is important because if he is not legally just like the DA, right? The DA is all tampered with. And so if the chief medical examiner is tampered with, then the cases that he is involved in are botched cases. Now, that's a security problem. That's a security risk. Because now you have botched cases. Who in their right mind appointed him? Because clearly, from what we have investigated, he is an illegal. I shouldn't say illegal. I should say he is not an authorized chief medical examiner according to the Texas Constitution. So, illegitimate, that would mean illegal. I shouldn't use that illegal word for him because people will construe it away from what I'm trying to say. He does not meet the standards of the Texas Constitution. And neither does Bill Hicks. And neither does Bill Hicks. So, this is a visa. The issue with Mario Rascon Ortiz is he has a visa question because it's the Department of State that has to issue his visa, right? So, this is, this is big pay. This is a big job. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would like that job. So who competed with him? So we have the Interpol right now. We have the chief medical examiner right now. We have those that want to deceive, those that want to respond in an unhelpful manner. Why are they responding in an unhelpful manner? You should see what we have to go through to get open records. There is misinformation, which is dishonesty, which is manipulation, an attempt to deceive, attempt to mislead, attempt to control the narrative, a false narrative at that. Now, if there was nothing to hide, why can't we have the open records? If there was nothing to hide on Fort Bliss, why is there a ban? This is, it's absolutely obvious that they're hiding, and they will manipulate and deceive in order to continue to hide whatever, and it must be very damaging to them. And the video of Richard, we have 2 hours, absolutely beautiful video. Absolutely beautiful. So, um, you know, and they're afraid of that because that was the basis for their deception. And no way, no matter how you look at that, that was not deserving a permanent GOMAR, a 4-month chaptering, a field grade Article 15 that demoted him 3 ranks, 45 days of extra duty wearing full battle gear and a mask, 50% of his pay for 2 months, his forced disappearance, his murder, his dismemberment, and the hiding of his remains. And that's why this chief medical examiner is as important as the chain of command and the others that have participated in this horrendous crime. Absolutely. So thank you so much. And we will be back, and you're going to see an attempt to manipulate the narrative, and whatever, they cannot tamper with truth. And the stars in their course fought against Sisera, and it's all going to come out. And we thank you so much for coming on. We thank you so much, and we'll be back tomorrow. Thank you. Please share, please comment, and like. Thank you.